he tries to get a good start on the intro.
Is beating this intro stage under a minute particularly difficult?
It shouldn't be difficult to get under a minute, but it can be problematic if you're trying to hit one of the main components of the early part of the run, which is known as the clock rush. I'll kind of have to wait until we get more into the run so I can discuss some of the mechanics behind that. But having the damage stack on Form 1 of Drax saves about 2 to 3 seconds. Getting it on Form 2... Okay, they're starting. Getting it on Form 2 for this damage stack can save basically about 4 to 5 seconds, depending on how many damage stacks you get. I believe he's going to try to end this fight with 0 hearts as well. That 0 heart ending will give him a heart refresh. When I was watching him do Glitchless, it wasn't particularly impactful for him for his route, but heart refresh can be used for a variety of sub-weapon based strategies later on in the game. So as far as sub-weapon goes, you're not going to see too many for the first part of the game. The main one that you're going to get to see is going to be Stopwatch, but we'll get into this game and start commentating live now that we're actually in it. So here we have Alucard running through the forest, much faster than he will inside of the normal game. But we got a way around that, because even if he's going to be lazy about his sauntering walk inside of the castle, we have a technique called shield dashing, which he is performing here. So shield dashing is a pretty simple concept. Most people who have played Symphony of the Night probably know that there's a backdash, and the backdash is considerably faster than your normal run speed, even if you just chain it together at a reasonably good rate. But what was discovered was that if you use your shield, you can cut the animation short and then re-backdash afterward, and it's actually the beginning part of the backdash that has the fastest movement. So by constantly pressing shield and backdash, one after the other, you can go considerably faster than you were intended to horizontally with Alucard himself. So here we're having Death steal all of our extremely powerful equipment early game. With the other categories that are not glitchless, you would be skipping this. But glitchless makes this a little bit more difficult. Because we don't have that overpowered gear, you do have to be a lot more careful about the damage you take, just because enemies are going to hit you a lot harder.
Beginning of the game is about the only time that they do hit you hard, seems to.
Yeah, there's going to be a couple places where it can get a little bit hairy depending on what hits you and what doesn't. You'll notice that KeynNaka is using his fist. For glitchless category, and because he got the good stats off of the Dracula fight, this is a extremely powerful weapon to start out with. He just picks up the leather shield there and equips it, so now he has access to his shield dashing again. He picks up the knife. That's going to have some situational uses coming up here. He uses somewhat of an older strategy for the first boss, Slogger and Gaibon, but it's still a pretty good one. So you'll get to see that. It's almost an evolution of the route in a way here. A little bit of trouble there with the axe armors, but that's okay. So the fist is really powerful because not only do you have the increased strength from the early intro, but it's very fast, and it can hit potentially 2 times. It has kind of a hitbox on the elbow and a hitbox on the fist, so each punch, while being extremely fast, can also hit twice. He throws the knives here in order to get Slogger Gaibon airborne, and then uses a timed Tetra Spirit when they're on top of them to get the most hits out of Alucard's spellcast there. Tetra Spirit is an extremely powerful spell for only about 20 mana, which makes it exceedingly cheap as well. You're going to see that in quite a few places from the strategies that I was seeing him use. KeynNaka uses the knives on these bloody zombies, which is pretty interesting. Normally, you would just use the fist and punch them, and that would be your first kind of strength check to see if you're good on strength for glitchless. If you're able to kill them in 2 attacks, then you're good. If you aren't, then, well, let's just say your damage is a little hairy. You can kind of get around that over time, though. The main thing to notice is while your stats are kind of set after that minute intro, Your actual level up stats vary depending on, you know, just levels are variable. Let's put it that way. Fleeman, huge source of RNG in this run. These ones are particularly annoying because at this point in the game they can do damage to you. So he's getting some nice hitboxes here, some nice movement from them, which is nice. You'll notice a couple rooms back that KeynNaka passed by the clock room with Maria inside of it. The entire portion of this start of the game is to get to the Wolf Relic and then return to that room. The reason for that is the left side of the room opens on even minutes and closes on odd minutes. And so you want to make it back to the room just before it opens, or while it is open at least, so that you can access the next part of the castle. Nice little jumping here over the snake women.
And that's what you're referring to when you said that mentioned the clock rush earlier, right?
Correct. You want to try to reach back there with the wolf at certain times in order to optimize your movement through the castle.
Also, we got a couple of questions in chat about the initial stats, just how they were affecting, how they affect Alucard. Well,
you get extra strength is probably the most relevant thing. You get extra HP. You can have 75 or 80 depending on if you got hit or not inside of it. You can get other things. They're not really particularly relevant, so I don't want to kind of dwell on them too much. So KeynNaka's taking a side path here. This is where it really starts to get weird if you've ever watched glitchless or certain runs, because you're like, why is he going here? Well, it turns out there's a secret elevator here.
I didn't know about that.
That's basically only used for bingo. And down here, you get the Jewel Knuckles and the Mirror Cuirass, which are way stronger items than you should have access to right now. The Jewel Knuckles have the added benefit of having the double hitbox that I was mentioning before. Nice use of Hellfire here and earlier on with the Stone Roses to just bypass them. Another option he could have used.
Let me interrupt real quick.
Sure, go ahead.
Someone's just requesting that if you can watch chat, because some people do have some questions. I'll be watching it as well, but
Sure. I can do that.
Also, if you could refresh when you're watching the stream, because I think you fell behind like a couple seconds, so just refresh it every now and then if you could.
Yeah, I got it. It's just there's a lot to commentate. Let's put it that way.
Yeah,
so,
I know it's pretty fast paced. Okay, feel free to resume.
Sure. So we ended up a couple moments ago. We saw Doppelganger 10, which is one of the first bosses, and it turns out that he is highly susceptible to the stopwatch item that we picked up a few rooms back. The stopwatch normally would just slow down a boss or do absolutely nothing. But turns out that with Doppelganger, well, it completely freezes him and destroys him. So we pick it up and we just trivialize that fight. So KeynNaka kind of climbs up the tower, activates the elevator here, enters the room and then leaves it. So the reason for that is normally you'd have to wait for the elevator to reach the top of this platform before you could take it. But by going inside and outside of that room, it respawns it at the top. So with access to the wolf, we can do a few things, one of which you're going to see here. This is known as a wolf jump. The wolf has very skewed physics mechanics when you're jumping up a slope. And because of that, you can reach places much, much earlier than you would normally be able to. Looks like he's kind of struggling a little bit here to get up there, but it's okay. It'll work itself out here momentarily.
Yeah, kind of like he jumps, the dog like jumps like straight up, kind of, doesn't it? Get it?
Yeah, the basic mechanic here is, oh wow, is he, okay. All right, I guess we aren't getting the garnet. Never mind. Never mind, we're moving forward. So again, this use of Hellfire and canceling it out to bypass the Stone Roses. Another option he could have would be to cast another spell and then shield dash through. Interesting thing about spells in this game. Spells in this game allow you a degree of invincibility even after their full cast animation is done. So you can do that to do some interesting stuff, let's say. The same thing can be applied to many of the usable items like potions and such, which you will see later on in the run 100%. If you don't, then he's probably dead. So, nice little wolf movement here. Looks like he's done a little bit of homework because, yeah, the wolf is much faster to return to the clock room once you get past these snake women, which is really nice. That was something that was kind of innovated a little bit by Disqual and Ben Outen and really pushed to the forefront as more tech came to the forefront with it.
All right.
So another big change here. He's going to go and pick up the a la carte gear. So the a la carte gear allows you, when you fully equipped it, to gain, I believe, plus 20 to your luck stat. And you might say, what is he going to use luck for? Well, don't worry about that. We'll get to that. So right now he's just waiting for the clock to open. It should open momentarily here. There it is. So the reason we got the wolf is specifically to be able to boost into the Coliseum here. Normally, in order to dive kick, you need to have the leap stone, which gives you a double jump. However, whenever you untransform from any of your transformations, mist, wolf, bat, you can dive kick. And that dive kick allows us to bounce off of the candle there and get extra height to get into the Coliseum. Well, Olrox and then into the Coliseum. Nice login there.
Yeah.
Maybe you should invite him to play.
I got a quick question for you. Are you watching the RT in Japan stream on a different quality than Source?
I am watching it currently on high quality.
Could you try turning it to Source? Because I think that might actually put you behind if you're watching the high quality version.
And I will refresh. It looks like he's coming into the Minotaur Werewolf fight, by the way. Minotaur Werewolf, pretty simple fight. Basically, he's going to skip the cutscene inside of it. That's something that you can only do with a New Game Plus file. Skipping the cutscene allows you to basically stop the AI from loading for a certain portion of time while you're active. And then he just punches him to death completely. And yeah, just completely dominates the fight by skipping that trigger. It's still active, but it doesn't trigger the enemy AI until Richter would be done speaking normally. So a little bit of shopping here. Hopefully he remembers to get the Jewel of Open. Okay, it looks like he'll get the Jewel of Open afterward here. So he gets a library card there, and that's just so that you can return back to the librarian after he's gotten access to the bat. We took that detour to the Coliseum just so that he could get Mist. Mist is, at this point, pretty much required in order to get access to bat. There are a couple of workarounds, but they just take way too much time in order to get access to it.
I see.
They usually involve an absurd amount of luck as well, like their challenge categories more than anything else. So we're going to be coming up to Lesser Demon. Lesser Demon, normally we would just completely destroy in basically every category, but in this one there's a little play there. In this one, he's going to actually go up to him with him being slowed from the stopwatch and punch his balls a bunch.
I do like the punching. It has that satisfying sound.
Ooh, okay. All right. So he's going to try to soul steal here. That was a little bit hairy there. But he has a pot roast, so it's fine. You know, just Alucard, just well known for his ability to just shove entire hunks of meat inside his gob. So he's going to pick up an Onyx here, and that's a concession to skipping the Garnet earlier. That'll give him the money he needs to continue the route. He's going to use that library card he picked up before to kind of bring himself back to the Master Librarian to bypass doing all the backtracking to get into that section of the castle again. So we're going to be picking up the Jewel of Open here. That's a necessary item for this. Allows you to open up blue doors. He is also going to be picking up a 500, which I believe is... I don't know if that's a potion or a high potion. Sorry, I don't really read Japanese. But yeah, with access to that, he now has the ability to open up the underground caverns, which I think is his next destination with his route. You'll notice he's stopping by the save room. Save rooms in this game restore your MP and your HP. That's something that you'll see quite a bit inside of Glitchless in general, is just going to those rooms to restore your MP so that you can use Wing Smash more effectively. Speaking of Wing Smash, we're seeing it a little bit here. The bat has an ability called Wing Smash. That's the blue kind of zipping move that you see whenever he turns into the bat. The Wing Smash gives you complete invincibility, does quite a bit of damage, and moves very, very fast. It turns out that if you do the Wing Smash spell multiple times within about 40 frames or so, you can continue to do that Wing Smash. Normally, if you just do it once, it'll go a certain distance and then Alucard will untransform. But if you have plenty of mana and enough manual dexterity to chain them together, you can basically do it as long as you have MP. And you're seeing that right now during the long hallway with the snake women. It's a little bit more prohibitive and glitchless than in any of the other glitch categories, just because, again, MP is a limiter for it. But it's still a very, very powerful maneuver.
Yeah, I got to use it in that really long hallway. It's nice.
Yeah. I should mention that the Wing Smash motion is also pretty difficult, like if you haven't spent a lot of time working with it. You can think of it as you hold a button, start from up and do 3/4 of a circle motion and then let go of the button. So you're constantly doing these like 360s and, you know, like 3/4 motions over and over, just depending on what type of Wing Smash you need. Wing Smashes can go up or down or straight across, and I mean, there's a lot of mobility with them that you get to see in a lot of other categories. This one is mostly going to be a lot more focused on shield dashing, and that's just a result of, again, that MP limiter. The Moonstone is getting picked up here as a stat increase. The game has an internal clock, and when it's nighttime in the game, the Moonstone gives you a stat boost, which is a fair portion of the game when you're talking about glitchless. So here we have the Succubus fight. Once again, kind of a different fight than you would see with the Shield Rod. KeynNaka, I believe, is going to open with Tetra Spirit, and then use those Jewel Knuckles to kind of dominate the fight here. Yeah, and you can just see just how crazy the damage is on those Tetra Spirits. And when bosses have huge hitboxes, they just get mauled by it. So after the fight, KeynNaka picks up the Gold Ring. Gold Ring is necessary in order to do the glitches category. We will also require the Silver Ring, which is what he's going to be making his way towards now. Both of those rings are required to get an item to access the second part of the game. We're also going to be picking up a couple items along the way to the Silver Ring as well. Punching some spearmen there as well. Every once in a while, you'll also notice that KeynNaka does a backdash into bat. We call that bat dashing. The basic concept is that the bat likes to preserve horizontal momentum. And so if you were to press backdash and then bat, it would travel along the trajectory of the backdash with that same momentum for some time. And that can give you a nice transitional movement option between turning into bat and then continuing your Wing Smash. So he's going to be picking up the Gravity Boots here. Gravity Boots are extremely crucial to be able to gain large amounts of height very quickly. That is one thing that the bat does pretty poorly. It's really bad at going up very, very fast. Like, it can go diagonally up pretty quickly, but not straight up. And that's what Gravity Boots kind of smooths out inside of the wrap, let's say. So, Aquas, how have you been feeling about the JRTA Marathon so far?
Well, I'm happy it's going down. I don't know. I mean, it's the first time Japan has had an in-person speedrun gathering.
I think that's a step of really nice things to come, too.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, especially since Japan is a much, kind of more compact place, so, the idea that you could potentially get basically the best runners from Japan all around in one place is really nice. When you think of things like ESA and GDQs, it can be kind of difficult just because the amount of distance that people need to travel is much larger.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Yeah, I mean, it feels like they maybe then should have been gathering even before this. So, I mean, I definitely hope they continue to, and their RTA community can grow as well.
So something that happened there that's very subtle, but Soten heads might know, is that normally in order to gravity boot multiple times, you need the leap stone to double jump. What KeynNaka did there is he untransformed using the bat in order to allow him to get multiple gravity boots, which is a lot harder than you would initially think.
Oh, wow.
At the blue door there, he used a potion in order to gain item invincibility to get through the spikes and open the door. You're going to see him use the invincibility from turning into a bat to not get hit there. But he's going to take a couple hits here, and that's just kind of a concession to this route. You'll see that in normal glitchless runs as well. Yeah, very different take on the normal traditional glitchless route. And again, it's not... it may not be the smoothest route possible or whatever, but again, it's very different and a nice change of pace. And I would say it's almost a time capsule of certain aspects of the run that you might have seen in about 2009 or 2010.
Okay.
Really, like I said, just a very... I can't think of any other better way to say it than just a very interesting way to approach the game and the content therein.
Like, what do you think is the main difference that he does between a typical glitchless run?
Well, the shield rod is a big thing.
Okay, yeah, that was probably the biggest thing then. Yeah.
I would say that's a pretty large thing. There's also been some pretty big innovations in the route in general from people like Scout and Dragon Blitz, just other people who have kind of touched on the category in the meantime.
Yeah, someone was joking. Yeah, it was like Scout %. So he guess did something similar to this, or was he actually running glitchless? I'm not sure.
Scout's done basically every category that there is to do in this game for the most part. The thing is, Rom does kind of a charity focus thing more often than not, where it's just kind of showing off the game in its entirety, and he calls it Scout %. Shows off a lot of very obscure glitches and bits of tech inside of it. Just a fun little watch. If you've never seen it before and he tweets out that he's going to do it, be sure to watch that. So here we're equipping the gold and silver rings to be able to access the bottom of the clock. And at the bottom of the clock, we are going to get an item called the Holy Glasses. The Holy Glasses are really important because if we didn't get them, we would not be able to complete the game in its entirety. We would have to defeat Richter Belmont and thus end a game early. But using the Holy Glasses, we get the ability to see the evil force that is trapping the soul of the Belmont and making him the lord of this castle. I guess we probably should introduce ourselves as well. KeynNaka is playing the game Symphony of the Night right now. I am TurboDog702. I'm probably one of the more well-known people in the Soten community, only because I do tutorials. I'm not actually good at the game. Don't let anybody say otherwise.
No.
But I just happen to be the guy that's always available for these things to be able to talk about the game and kind of show love for the community. Did you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm just. My name's Zach Lewis. I'm just hosting for this current block right now.
All right.
Getting a little back and forth here.
Yeah, this is just a little bit of backtracking here. He uses the library card as it's going to be a faster method to get across the castle. One of the other big things that is a huge change between this route and the one that's kind of in normal glitchless is he did all of that backtracking to get the rings right now. Before, in normal routes, we would have used or gotten the leap stone first from the upper castle, but he's not going to get that until the end of the first castle. This is another big change. So he's going to use a mana prism to be able to get enough MP to gravity boot and knock up the Master Librarian enough times to get Dracula's Tunic. So if you've never seen that before, Dracula's Tunic is an extremely powerful piece of armor. It also increases your offensive stats, but you have to run into the Librarian's butt like 12 times or something in order to get it. And the only time that he's ever going to have that much mana is if he uses the mana prism at this level. So that's you will literally never see that in any other category.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. I like that it's actually a thing, definitely.
So we've gotten a couple of little questions about kind of versions of this game. There's the PlayStation version, the XBLA version, which is kind of the PlayStation version, just a much faster and better running version of it. There's the Saturn version of this game, which is Nocturne in the Moonlight. And then there is a special version of the game called inside the Dracula X Chronicles, which is unlockable. For the most part, the PlayStation and Xbox versions of the game are very similar to one another. They can do most tricks interchangeably. Saturn and Dracula X Chronicles have their own little balls of specialness that you can deal with in those. So if you're very interested in that at all, or even mildly interested, I'd say check those out. Look up some YouTube videos, because there's some interesting stuff in both of those versions that you won't see in the more traditional ones.
Yeah,
I like to say
you got two different versions of Maria between like the Saturn and the PlayStation, right?
So this is Karasuma, but he's not actually a boss. We're just gonna keep punching him, and he's gonna pretend like he's relevant. But yeah,
I always gave that boss a female type of persona myself.
Yeah,
It's interesting.
It's oftentimes is the boss's Malphus, which I believe is a witch in folklore. So I guess that would be a little bit more correct, and it's pronounced as Malphus in more games than not, I believe. In this game, it's Karasamon. So, as I mentioned, getting the Leap Stone very late in the first castle. Normally in Glitchless, we would get that much earlier. But once again, this is the route that he's choosing to take through the castle. We're now making our way over to Richter Belmont. He's going to put on the Holy Glasses so that, once again, he can see the evil thing mind-controlling Richter Belmont. He also puts on the Ring of Arcana, which will become more relevant later on. And there we go. Just shafts balls, causing all of the trouble.
Wait, was there one ball or two balls there?
There's just the one.
Okay.
He only needs one ball. The other one ran into an unfortunate accident.
He dropped it on the way. He dropped it on that staircase that was just no staircase.
So the second castle is going to go considerably faster than the first, and that's because we now have access to all of our movement and height gaining options. I guess height gaining options are movement, but I think you get the point. As with many other Metroidvania style games, the main gateway to progression in this game is height. Like, can you go high enough to access the area? But since we now have access to double jump, bat, gravity boots, none of these things are barriers to us anymore. Now it's just being able to effectively move around the castle and deal with the problems they're in. We have Darkwing Bat coming up here. Darkwing Bat is kind of deceptively difficult to hit. His hitbox is only the body. Like, his enormous wings don't have a hitbox on them, and that can be pretty frustrating if you aren't able to deal with him quickly enough. Well, Tetra Spirits does really good work, though. I mean, I guess you're maybe seeing a pattern here, and that Tetra Spirits is kind of a broken spell.
How come he doesn't get rid of Tetra Spirit then? Too.
Well, I mean, there's only so much you can ban, and in such an expansive game like Soten, there's so many things that are powerful. Like, even the Jewel Knuckles that he picks up earlier are so good.
Yeah.
Right, so these Cloak Knights are kind of dangerous. So he's going to use a stopwatch in order to stop them from getting out of control.
Would he take like 60 damage from touching them?
Not quite that much, but he would take enough that it would be a problem. And he might get comboed out throughout the course of that room. He does have the Mirror-Cuirace, which gives him quite a bit more defense and prevents him from getting stoned. But it's still kind of a dangerous situation to be in, and they could constantly knock you down and make you fall down the room as well, stop you from progressing. So his mana is a little bit... Ooh, that's bad. So his mana was a little bit shoddy there, so he wasn't able to make it to the top of the room. So he's got to wait a little bit of time here in order to regen.
He's smiling. He's like, yeah.
Yeah. He knows.
He's like, all right, I gotta wait a little bit. He's just looking around now.
Okay, good. That one was a little sketchy too. No, we got it.
There you go.
All right, so now I see some people in here that are going to be just thrilled with this coming up here. So we talked about the Dracula tunic. We talked about the a la carte gear. We talked about the Ring of Arcana. I guess I could mention what the Ring of Arcana does, by the way. Ring of Arcana increases your rare drop rate. He also picked up a luck potion, which it turns out increases your luck. So
he's going to be farming for something here?
He will be farming a pretty notorious weapon inside of this game and the series in general. He will be farming an item known in the Japanese version as Valmanway, and in many other games as Valmanway. Our English-speaking audience might find it a little bit easier to know this sword by the name Chrysogram. A Chrysogram only drops off of this one enemy in the game, and this is probably the most efficient spot to be able to farm it. He puts on all of the a la carte gear to get an enormous luck boost, and uses the luck potion to give himself the best chance at getting the drop quickly, and he's going to farm these shmoos. So I've seen this thing drop the first time somebody kills it. I've seen people take 10 minutes to get this drop. It just really depends on what the game chooses to do.
So he's committed to getting this drop.
He's all in on this. That being said, I mean, it is a really good weapon. Like, if we're kicking out Shield Rod, and we're kicking out many of the other weapons that would take a long time to get to them, this is a really, really strong weapon.
It's a decent alternative. I mean, it seems a little strange to limit himself from the Shield Rod, but get the Chrysogram instead. But I suppose it isn't a projectile and it's a melee weapon.
Well, the big thing too is that the Shield Rod you get it so early in the run, and it just dominates the entire game. At least with this, he needs to wait until the second castle to get access to it. I would assume that's kind of his reasoning with it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Okay.
I've only gotten to speak with KeynNaka fairly briefly in his streams, just to kind of pick his brain about what he thinks about certain things.
Mm.
The language barrier is there. He does know a little bit of English, but definitely not his first language.
At least he can do this pretty quickly here. The shmoo comes in and...
Nice ramen drop there. So the other heartbreaking thing that can happen here, and I hope it doesn't, is that he could potentially get the Chrysogram to drop and just accidentally leave the room.
Oh, I see what you mean, yeah. He's got to confirm it every time.
Yeah. I've definitely seen... In the last run that I saw him do with this route, he got it, I believe, 5th drop.
Yeah, vague memories.
He's taking it in stride, though. You can see him smiling and laughing and stuff.
He's like, yeah, I put this in my route. I'm just having vague flashbacks to watching Romscout and Mecharector do pacifist runs in this game. They're farming the heart refresh from the Petunia girl.
Yeah. Another one would be the low percent wolf, where Romscat has famously taken 4 hours and not gotten the Flamberg.
Yeah,
so
dedication, right?
I mean, if you're gonna make your bed, you got to sleep in it, right? So
true. All right, so we're running a while now.
I was gonna say, what's kind of coming up down the pike for this marathon? By the way, the next couple games or so.
Yeah, I can talk about that a little bit. So after this run, next up is Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. It's going to be on the PC. The category is Hero Story. The runner, Shibaki. So I'll be up next after this, and following that is Gimmick, Beckered running that, doing best ending, and following that we have some more stuff this morning. SD Gundam game of some sort. I'm actually SD Hero something on the Famicom. Kirby Air Ride, Tetris 2, Bombless, Undertale's happening around 10 a.m. Just a lot of cool games that these runners are doing.
All right. We've heard all of that. Okay.
Yeah.
I want to know, what is Aqua's going to be watching?
Oh, Gimmick. I mean, that's why I'm here.
Oh man. Yo, Mr. Gimmick?
Mr. Gimmick.
Are we riding stars today? Is that what's happening?
Beckered sure will be.
Oh man. Is he going to be doing I don't know what the term is. Is it going to be like the good ending, or is he...
He's doing the best ending, yeah. It's
okay.
The one where you save the girl. And you have to collect all the treasures and all that.
I mean, I'd love to mention more about the game right now, but we are in full shmoo farming mode here.
let's stay shmoo related. No, I don't care.
Well, I guess let's go ahead and I guess I could mention. So KeynNaka also has done runs of Castlevania Harmony of Despair. Those of you unfamiliar with Harmony of Despair, it is a PS3 and XBLA game which allows you to play online. And what it is it's kind of like a variety of maps that are kind of like huge open maps that you and multiple players can explore and fight multiple bosses. Kind of like a greatest hits of the series, I would say. There's tons of different characters you can play. It's a pretty interesting game. KeynNaka does speedrun it every once in a while. He's done both new game, which is really challenging because the game's kind of built around grinding, and he's played kind of individual level runs, and he has a very similar approach in that game as well. Like, he does take the initiative to ban very specific things in there. Mm-hmm. He actually bans Valman Way in his runs in that game, because in that game, Chrysogram's just insane.
Yeah,
he just trivializes so much. There's the Chrysogram. All right, we're moving, boys.
Yay! We're moving.
But if you haven't seen KeynNaka, he doesn't stream a ton on Twitch, but I would definitely give him a follow, because again, he has a very interesting take on speedrunning. And I don't know, I just really respect and enjoy people who like the hobby and are very positive about it.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to see full power mode here on Frankenstein's monster as he just gets destroyed by the Chrysogram. That's got to feel good if you're if you're KeynNaka, by the way. Just after all that farming, finally you get to just destroy things.
Yeah, that was like 4 hits.
Yeah, the Chrysogram does enormous amounts of damage and hits multiple times per button press. So, I mean, it just fillets everything it comes in contact with. It's like sticking the enemy in a food processor. Alright, so huge wing smash chain here. Very draining on mana, but very, very good just for the purposes of covering distance very quickly. Also kind of a deceptive thing. I mentioned how untransforming and doing multiple gravity boots is pretty difficult without double jump. Another thing that's actually pretty difficult is chaining together infinite wing smash for that long and maintaining your height. Very often when people do IWS, they gain height, like they move slightly up each time they do a wing smash. So being able to go in a straight line is actually a skill that takes quite a bit of time and practice to be able to perfect. So KeynNaka is going to be starting to make his way up to Death, who's going to have kind of the last relic in this portion of the castle. And then he's going to be making his way back up to the, well, bottom of the castle now, in order to clear out the second half. This whole section is really just gathering up Dracula's body parts in order to access the middle of the castle and finish the game proper. Alright. Another thing that's kind of interesting about not using the Shield Rod is you're not a slave to the mana constraints of it. Shield Rod doesn't use a ton of mana in order to use Iron Shield, but it is something to keep in mind when you're getting ready to fight bosses and such. Like, you gotta make sure that you aren't wing smashing through your entire mana pool. You just gotta... I would say Glitchless is one of the most interesting things about it is just it requires planning and adaptation. Like, it's certain things go right. When can you spend mana? When can't you spend mana? Things like that.
Comes down to mana usage, huh?
Yeah, mana usage a huge consideration for Glitchless because, again, you don't have access to relatively infinite mana that you would for the other categories.
So it really plays into the whole route, essentially.
Yeah.
If you're low on mana, then...
If you're low on mana, you're stuck shield dashing. I mean, that's pretty much your only option, realistically. And that's why you will see quite a bit more shield dashing inside of Glitchless, is because sometimes that is just your best option. Sometimes you need to save that mana for elsewhere. For example, we noticed that earlier on he had run out of mana in that very large room. Like, I mean, you think about how punishing that is, and you just don't want that to ever happen. So that was presumably a boss. Again, Chrysogram's just going to carry this home. I mean, he basically just he just walks from place to place and just turns on the blender. And
yeah.
Just fall down. Cue the sweet fan art that's going to come out of a chibi KeynNaka with a blender, just like sticking bosses in it. Yeah, it's been a pretty interesting setup so far. They've actually gotten a lot of really heavy hitters early on in this marathon. Do you happen to know what time it is, kind of local time for them, where they're at?
In Japan right now, it should be 8 p.m.
Right. So wow, they gave a really nice spot for Soten. Zakmodon. He is definitely not a mummy's alive. So kind of an interesting thing that a lot of people might not pick up about Castlevania in general as a series is they think of it as a Konami game, as a Japanese game. But in general, Castlevania has a much bigger following in the West than it does in Japan. So that's why I was kind of surprised that they would decide to put it up with such greats as, like, you know, the 3D Zelda games and such. But I mean, I guess they have a lot of confidence inside of this game and the type of awesome speed tech that it provides, and I'm really glad about that. I would say that's one of the reasons why you don't typically see a lot of Soten speedrunners and for the Japan region. It's just, it's not as big of a franchise there. I mean, you'll obviously have greats like, oh man, I'm just totally forgetting his name right now. And that's going to be Hanage Belmondo for like CV4. You know, you'll always have those outliers that are extremely competent and really well versed in their games, but like I said, just in general, not so big of a thing in Japan.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. But still, definitely, caliber of players is still represent their country pretty strongly. Absolutely. I would say. Yeah, even though speedrunning became a bit more popular in other countries, say U.S. in particular.
Yeah, I think it's just really comes down to how much of a community you can have as to your growth, because in the end, speedrunning is by and large a community effort. There's very few games that are broken by a single individual and kind of pushed to that capacity. It's really cool to be able to see kind of the other side of the pond showing off what they've been working on. So often, it feels like the Japanese community almost sequesters themselves to Nico, which is unfortunate because I can't read Japanese, so I can't make a Nico account, is I guess what this really comes down to, because I'd love to see more of them.
It's not too difficult if you wanted to make one, actually.
So Shaft gets completely destroyed here. We're coming up on time very shortly. He is going to be just mowing down the final form of Dracula here. They're going to be splitting. Yeah, hopefully you guys have really enjoyed kind of this, just a very different look at this game than you might be used to if you've been a fan of the speedrunning community. And hopefully if you're a casual player that's joined in on this, you've seen kind of a better gateway into it. A lot of the times people are, very intimidated by watching the speedrun of a game, as opposed to the casual experience, oh, they're just glitching all over the place. What KeynNaka is really showing is, I would say, a really interesting look at the in-between of those two things. The hardcore run and kind of the more casual, interesting look at the castle type of tour.
There it goes.
So you got
definitely. I like that too. There's something about that, because if it can get people interested, and it is like, glitchless is like how we would have played it, more or less. Like, you're getting the Jewel of Open and all that junk, and pretty much doing a lot of the same things. That's GG's out.
So that's mostly a sub 45 also by current timing, which is pretty good, even for just a normal glitchless time.
Yeah, good run. I mean, that was pretty cool to watch.
But that's been Symphony of the Night with KeynNaka. Definitely give him a follow. Definitely make sure to watch more of RTA in Japan. I guess I'm going to head out of here. My name is TurboDog702, and I have been your commentator for Castlevania Symphony of the Night. KeynNaka glitchless, let's call it. Thank you guys for watching. Hopefully this has maybe enticed you guys to look more into Soten for speedrunning, or just, follow the marathons out there.
Indeed.
Also, thank you guys for your restreaming efforts as well on speed gaming. All right, I'm going to head out of here. See you guys.
Commentary. Thanks again. Take care, TurboDog.
Peace.
All right. So we're setting up for the next run here. Looks like empty couch right now. In any case, apologies about my time in Japan comment earlier. I swear, Japan time is usually 2 hours ahead of Central Standard Time. That's how I usually do it. But I did say the wrong time. In any case, up next is going to be Sonic Adventure 2. And we're just wrangling up for that. Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. It's going to be ran by Shibaki. Category Hero Story on the PC. And we're going to get some commentators, A Mustache and Draco Dan, coming in here very shortly. Should be a fun one. Once again, this is the English restream of the twitch.tv/RTA in Japan stream. You can check out the original Japanese stream there, twitch.tv/RTA in Japan. And this is the first in-person speedrun gathering event that they've decided to do in Japan. So we're restreaming it. It's pretty awesome. And so far, the event has gone pretty well, aside from just the 3DS capture on the Ocarina of Time run earlier. Brought us into radio commentary for the rest of half of that run. Aside from that, it's been pretty smooth, and the quality of play has also been pretty awesome. Is Shibaki Blue Sweater Guy? I don't know. So, and then the event is in Akihabara specifically as well. I don't know more details than that, but I assume there's probably just some space that they're using in some building, and there you go. You have RTA in Japan.